This may seem like an innocent sandwich to you, and it is, but if you give it some mature reflection, as I just have, it's not so simple. In this unassuming sandwich, there exists a kind of destiny, fate you might call it. What I mean is that what I put into the sandwich when I made it earlier this morning, I now have to eat. What I did in the past affects me now. That's what our show is about today, fate. Actions that seem very innocent at one time determine major outcomes later on. We'll see why gemstones are valuable and what happens when an inferior product is tested. But first, more on the sandwich.
Zucchini. What was I thinking of this morning? Never liked the stuff. I thought it was the salami. Guess I was only half awake. Well, chalk it up as another fateful event in the life of a highly paid private eye. The things a guy brings on himself. Yesterday I forgot the salami in my sandwich altogether. That's how I made it. That's how I had to eat it. Guess I should try getting up earlier so I'd have time to make my sandwiches properly. Life drives hard bargains. So what you reap, is that it? Oh boy. Good grief.
Who'd have ever thought that eating a simple sandwich could be so complicated? We'll be back with more of the third story after this break. The 18-wheelers we see rolling down the highway appear to hum along easily and trouble-free. But those big rigs need a lot of the right care and attention, proper fuel, frequent checkups, and regular maintenance. Overlooking a small problem during a regular checkup can lead to a costly breakdown or even an accident later on.
Running
Throughout history, people have had things they treasured. These have included gemstones, like diamonds and sapphires. Diamonds are precious because they are unusually beautiful, rare, and durable. Their potential for beauty began many years ago under tremendous pressure inside the earth. What began then results in beauty for us today.
Without question, the king of gemstones would be the diamond, simply because it is one of the most beautiful. It is relatively rare. You have to do a great deal of mining to recover even small diamonds, and its durability is legendary. It's the hardest substance known to man. Historically, diamonds have been worn by men. Diamonds were very costly and therefore worn primarily by the royalty and by men of influence and position. The women really couldn't afford it, and it's not until recent years that the diamonds have become available to many people. Diamonds were originally formed during the formation of the Earth. Diamond is a pure form of carbon, and of course it's much more attractive than what we think of in terms of carbon. If we think of carbon, we think of a piece of coal, but diamond is a very pure form of carbon. It crystallizes most frequently in a shape called the octahedron, and when they mine for diamonds, this is what they will normally find. A common misconception is that diamonds or other gemstones are found in the earth just as we see them in fine jewelry. However, this is not the case. Diamonds, as you would find them in the ground, are rough, and you would hardly recognize them from the normal pebble on the beach. The rough diamonds are taken from the mines via the central selling organization in London to the various cutting centers around the world. And it is from the cutters that they are distributed to the retail stores and to the jewelry stores around the world. The cutters go to London approximately 10 times a year to what they call sites. And at these sites, they will buy the rough diamonds. A cutter also has to learn, and he has to be an apprentice for many years before he becomes a fine cutter. They say that unless you become very skilled at a very early age, in the early teens, it's very difficult to become a fine cutter because your eyes have to become attuned to the different angles of cutting and so on. I would estimate about 85 to 90% of all diamonds mined go into industrial usages, such as drills for hard rock drilling, the needles on our record players, and there's a multitude of uses. But the finer gemstones are separated and cut for jewelry purposes. The durability of a diamond rests largely with its hardness. A diamond is unquestionably the hardest substance known to man. There are scales that have been established to define hardness, and sometimes we have used a very simplistic scale, numbering from number 1 to 10, with number 1 being relatively soft, such as talcum powder, number 10 being the hardest, being diamond. Other gemstones are then compared in that relative scale from 1 to 10. If we take number 9, rubies and sapphires are rated as number 9, diamonds are rated as number 10. The relative difference between number 9 and number 10 is far greater than the difference between number 1 and number 9. So there's such a huge gap between diamond and whatever is next to it that it's very difficult to explain that gap. Most diamonds have some natural impurities, or we would call them inclusions, within the stone. Very few are absolutely pure. That doesn't necessarily detract from the beauty of the stone, but the desirability of the stone is greater for a stone that we would refer to as being flawless, or as close to being flawless as possible. There is a recent technique that has been developed whereby natural inclusions or imperfections may be removed by use of a laser beam. The laser beam drills a tiny hole into the diamond and literally bleaches the inclusion out of the diamond. It does leave a very tiny hole in the diamond, which is more desirable than having a large inclusion within the stone. Fine gemstones such as diamonds and precious metals such as gold are all part of God's creation. Even today, when we look at the the fire and the sparkle and the brilliance of a diamond. It really is unparalleled. And when we combine that beauty with the other factors, its durability and its rarity, that's what really gives a diamond its great appeal.
Our actions, the way we relate to people, the decisions we make, may seem small at one point, but they can have huge consequences later on. We'll see how the quality of our actions will be tested someday after we come back. It's easy to go right through a day without thinking much about what we're doing. Without thinking, I can go over the speed limit on my way to work and kick myself for getting caught. I buy lunch for a student who's broke and hungry and think it's no big deal. But that small deed may be very meaningful for the person who needed it. I've had a rough day at work, slumped down with the newspaper, and totally ignore my son, who's had a rotten day at school and needs some reassurance. How will these activities look 1,000 years from now?
The writers of the Bible have interesting ways of illustrating what God says. In one place, the Apostle Paul says that Jesus Christ is to people what a foundation is to a building. Those who accept Him into their lives build on Him and His ways. He never lets them down in the way that bad foundations crumble. Here's how the Bible says it. No one can ever lay any other real foundation than that one we already have, Jesus Christ. He who builds on that foundation must be very careful. There are various kinds of materials that can be used to build on that foundation. Some people use gold, silver, or jewels. Some build with sticks, hay, or even straw. There's going to come a time of testing at Christ's Judgment Day to see what kind of material each builder has used. Everyone's work will be put through the fire so that all can see whether or not it keeps its value and what was really accomplished. Then every workman who has built on the foundation with the right materials and whose work still stands will get his pay. But if the house he has built burns up, he'll have a great loss.
Often, what starts out as an innocent prank ends in something much bigger. Like the kid who scares the daylights out of his cat by sucking its tail up the vacuum cleaner hose. He knows the cat hates the vacuum. It ends up tearing the house apart, which includes tearing up his mother's new drapes. Now that can be serious. But some things are even more serious.
Hey Ron, have you heard the news about Kevin yet?
Oh, just they had some sort of court case coming up. So what's the story?
Well, you know he's a computer whiz, right? Forever fiddling around with those school computers.
So?
Well, he schemed the idea of entering an imaginary person into the school computer with grades, age, the whole works.
Sounds like an innocent prank to me.
Oh, it was at first, but then he got the idea of changing some of his own marks. For example, English literature, his worst subject.
Gave himself an A, right?
No, he changed it from a D to a C+.
And he got caught.
No, he figured he had a good thing going for him. So he decided to get some of his friends in on the idea, maybe change their marks for them.
So that's when he got caught.
He almost didn't. His biggest problem was getting into the school and using the computers. He had to get in when the school was open, use the computers, and get back out again without being caught.
Oh, pretty tricky. How did he do it?
Well, he probably sat in the washroom or something. I don't really know.
So then what happened?
Well, one evening after school, he hadn't noticed that there was a teacher working after hours. The teacher had finished his work, and Kevin was heavy duty into his work. The teacher walked by and must have saw the light coming from underneath the door, or maybe the computer beep, I don't know. The teacher asked Kevin what he was doing so late after school. Kevin said that all he was doing was some homework, but the teacher came over to check out what was on the screen, and Kevin didn't clear it fast enough and got caught.
Whoa, pretty scary.
Yeah. Kevin tried to get out of it. The teachers talked to his parents and everything, but he just couldn't. They say it's a serious crime.
Oh, hey, look, there's Karen.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Karen. Have you heard anything about Kevin's court case?
Well, they talked about it in staff meeting yesterday, and I can't tell you what was said there, but I will say that he's in very serious trouble.
The whole thing's so dumb. He could be ruined for the rest of his life.
You know, it didn't just happen without him doing something about it. Somewhere along the way, he made a decision that set him on this pathway.
I just wish I knew how he could get off the truck.
Yeah, and I sure hope it doesn't affect his schoolwork and his other activities.
English literature was his only
Tattered by all of my problems, searching for answers, my heart's open wide. The choices we make, they fix our future. How can we know what's wrong or right? Talk to God, He's there to listen. Walk with Jesus, He'll show you the way. He'll show you the way. He'll show you the way.
I'll be back to tell you how you can get our free cartoon storybook. Life has its lonely moments when we grapple with decisions. It's important for us to stop and think of where we're heading and what the conclusions might be to the decisions we're making now. God is the best one to help us with this. We can talk to Him at any time.
You don't know about the next day. You've got some idea for a start, that's okay, but you don't know what might come your way. You've got to prepare, so why don't you pray? Lord, I need your truth and wisdom on the way. Now, until the time I'm with you to stay. Lord, I need your truth and wisdom on the way. Now, until the time I'm with you to stay. You don't know what's coming today. You've got some idea for a start, that's okay, but you don't know what might come your way. So trust in the Lord and continue to pray. Lord, I need your truth and wisdom on the way. Now, until the time I'm with you to stay. Lord, I need your truth and wisdom on the way. Now, until the time I'm with you to stay. You don't know if today is the day. Remember, in time we must all pass away. You don't know if it's gonna be early or late, but as long as we live, to Jesus we pray. Lord, I need your truth and wisdom on the way. Now, until the time I'm with you to stay. Lord, I need your truth and wisdom on the way. Now, until the time I'm with you to stay.
Hi, we'd like to hear from you on The Third Story. We'd like to know who you are and what you think about some of the things you've seen on the program. When you write to us, we'll send you a survival kit. It's free of charge. In it, you'll find a cartoon book with some stories from the program, a book from the Bible, some cards to send to your friends, and a colorful poster with some verses to think about. When you write to us, send your letters to The Third Story, Box 2, Station F, Winnipeg, Manitoba. That's The Third Story, Box 2, Station F, Winnipeg, Manitoba. We look forward to hearing from you real soon.
The Bible is filled with God's instructions to us. It's the best place to go to find out how to live. If we read and study it regularly, we'll have a lot of help in making up our minds when we face decisions.
In school they told me, you just got to know science and socials and how to sit in a row. But then they scold me when I want to know, is it all true and what am I learning it for? Open my eyes, there is much more to see, something more real and more free. Open my eyes, there is much more to see, something more real and more free. Downtown they told me, put on a good show, play the right music, make sure you wear the right clothes. They try to mold me, I want to say no. Isn't there some other better way I can go? Open my eyes, I am starting to see something more real and more free. Open my eyes, I am starting to see something more real and more free. Have we rejected the truth of God's plan? All of his purposes for the world and for man. Well, Jesus showed me what God had in mind, living and dying in perfect